looking at the Week 16 world-class verdict.
As we are.
We're going deep into the grit of the cycling monuments, the final horn of the NCAA ice hockey season, the technical precision of elite gymnastics, and the aggressive algorithms of cricket power plays, plus tennis, MMA, and rugby. It's a huge week.
It really is. But before we get into the weeds, we have to establish the stakes for this deep dive. We are instituting the one-star rule.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Week 16 is officially on trial. If we cannot find a result in your stack of sources today that completely defies the odds, like a true, undeniable shocker this week gets a brutal one-star review.
Wow. Okay, well, if we look at the context of what is happening across the globe right now, those stakes are inherently massive anyway.
Right.
Like, we're looking at a week defined entirely by harsh environments and zero-sum games. Take cycling, for instance.
Okay.
The riders are facing the hell of the north, the Paris-Roubaix Femme. I mean, this is a race where a single sector of cobblestones, depending on its severity rating, can cement a legacy or literally fracture a collarbone and end your season.
There's zero safety net.
Absolutely none.
Yeah.
And over in ice hockey, we're dealing with the fallout of the NCAA Frozen Four, which is the ultimate dynasty versus contender scenario.
Right.
Wisconsin against Ohio State.
Yeah, that was huge. And in soccer, the European World Cup 2027 qualifiers are forcing a very similar zero-margin reality.
Because only the group winners qualified directly for the tournament.
Exactly. Every single other team is thrown into this brutal, unpredictable playoff lottery.
So, can the underdogs actually pull off the impossible when the math is so heavily stacked against them? Let's find out. We are jumping straight into the dust, the grit, and the sheer mechanical violence of the cycling monuments.
Yeah, the mechanical violence is a great way to put it.
It really is. And the sources point us directly to the 2026 Paris-Roubaix Femme.
To really grasp what happened at this race, you have to understand the sheer brutality of the physical course. The riders cover 143.1 kilometers. That's from Denain to Roubaix.
Right.
And embedded within that route are 20 categorized sectors of brutal cobblestones, which they call pavés. And this isn't, a quaint historical European street.
No, not at all.
We are talking about 33.7 kilometers of jagged, uneven, tractor-rutted rocks.
I saw footage of this, and calling them cobblestones feels like a PR spin. Like, riding over these 5-star pavé sectors looks like trying to hold on to a firing jackhammer for 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
Your body is absorbing so much kinetic energy that I read riders literally have to do specialized winter weight training just so their triceps don't tear off the bone.
It's insane. But that is the biomechanical reality of Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah.
When a bicycle hits these stones at, 40 kilometers an hour, the vibrations travel straight up the carbon fiber fork into the rider's wrists, elbows, and shoulders.
God, that sounds awful.
You have to maintain this agonizingly loose grip on the handlebars while simultaneously steering through mud. If you grip too tight, your forearms cramp, and you lose control entirely.
But if you grip too loose, the wheel violently kicks out and you crash.
Exactly. It's a lose-lose scenario.
Yeah.
And coming into this biomechanical nightmare, all eyes were on the defending champion, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot of Visma-Lease Bike, and her teammate, the consensus greatest of all time, Marianne Vos.
And Vos wasn't just battling the cobblestones, right? She was carrying an immense psychological weight into this specific race.
She was, yeah. She was racing brilliantly despite the very recent passing of her father, Hank. So the entire emotional narrative of the cycling world was heavily leaning toward a Vos victory.
Because she had finished second and twice fourth in this race previously.
Right. She had conquered almost everything else in the sport. This was the one monument she deeply personally wanted.
But our one-star rule demands a shocker. And Week 16 delivered one through Franziska Koch.
Oh, what a phenomenal performance. Franziska Koch is a 25-year-old German champion riding for FDJ United Suez.
Right.
She came into this race as an outside favorite. I mean, she had a respectable 7th-place finish in the first edition of the race, but what she executed this week was just a masterclass in tactical survival and energy preservation.
I want to break down the experience of that survival, because the sources describe an environment that is actively attacking the riders.
Actively, yes.
You have early breakaways getting swallowed up, elite riders getting dropped due to mechanical failures, and even literal crashes caused by the spectators. How does a rider like Koch maintain tactical focus when the environment is just sheer chaos?
It comes down to something called cognitive bandwidth. In a normal road race, you spend your mental energy calculating drafts, wind direction, measuring the distance to the breakaway.
The normal stuff.
Right, the normal stuff. At Paris-Roubaix, 90% of your cognitive bandwidth is spent just looking at the 2 meters of ground directly in front of your front tire.
Wow.
Just choosing the line of least resistance. Inside the final 50 kilometers, top riders like Elisa Balsamo suffered front wheel punctures. That immediately puts them in the red, forcing them to burn precious anaerobic matches just to catch back up to the peloton.
And by burning matches, you mean they are sprinting to catch up, accumulating lactic acid that they will desperately need later in the race.
Precisely. And then you hit the Mons en Pével. This is a 5-star sector, maximum severity. This is where Franziska dropped the hammer.
She used her cyclocross background.
Well, exactly. Her ability to generate massive torque in slippery conditions, she used that to take a small elite group clear. And that group contained Vos, Vos, and Koch.
And even inside that elite breakaway, the attrition doesn't stop. Like, the sources note Laura Gillespie going down hard as they exited the cobbles, which delayed Lorena Wiebes.
Yeah.
Lucinda Brand gets tangled up and taken down by a spectator. I mean, the race isn't just about who is the fastest. It's about who is literally the last one standing upright.
And Koch was incredibly disciplined through all of that. With 23.1 kilometers to go, the group approaches the Carrefour de l'Arbre, which is another terrifying 5-star sector with notoriously sharp corners.
Right.
Here, Koch accelerated. She dropped massive power and took Vos clear. Franziska, acting as the ultimate teammate for Vos, kept fighting her way back to the front to try and set the pace and neutralize attacks.
But Koch repeatedly distanced the defending champion on the hardest, most punishing sections.
She did. Which sets up this legendary cinematic finish. They enter the famous Roubaix velodrome. It's Koch, Vos, and Franziska. They are shoulder-to-shoulder, elbow-to-elbow, riding the banked concrete in a pure track sprint.
And Koch, the outside favorite, edges out the Giro. It's the biggest win of her career.
To beat Marianne Vos in a sprint finish inside a velodrome requires not just explosive, fast-twitch muscle fibers, but the absolute psychological refusal to yield.
Yeah.
Koch wrote her name into the history books by outpositioning a highly motivated, emotionally charged legend.
Okay, well, I am going to push back here a little bit.
Okay.
We love a shocker. The drama of a velodrome sprint where they are inches apart is visually unmatched. But earlier in the season at the Tour of Flanders, Demi Vollering, who also rides for FDJ United Suez, put on a completely different kind of clinic.
She did.
She won in 4 hours, 16 minutes, and 37 seconds. She left the entire field, including Ferrand Prévot and Puck Peters, 42 seconds behind.
Yeah, that was huge.
So my question is, do we overvalue the dramatic photo-finish sprint at Roubaix over the pure, undeniable 42-second blowout dominance we saw at Flanders?
That's a great question. And you are touching on a massive...
Legs are basically filled with cement by that point.
Exactly. But Vollering's win at the Tour of Flanders is a demonstration of an entirely different physiological system. That race features the Oude Quermont, which is a brutal, repeated, cobbled climb.
Right.
Vollering's 42-second victory was built on sustained, unmatchable aerobic power. She didn't just survive, she outputted a sustained wattage that the rest of the world literally could not physically match without their heart rates redlining.
So it's the difference between winning a knife fight in a phone booth versus just outrunning everyone up a mountain.
That is a perfect analogy.
And the sources show this massive variety of wins happening all season. Puck Peters winning La Flèche Wallonne over Vollering and Elisa Longo Borghini. Celia Gary taking the Brabant's Peel with a perfectly timed uphill sprint.
And when you analyze all of these different types of victories, a larger structural trend emerges regarding team building. If we look at the overarching team rankings, FDJ United Suez is currently the #1 ranked team in the world.
But hold on, the sources also point out that Lorena Wiebes, who rides for Team SD Works Pro Time, actually leads the individual win count. She has 4 wins in 2026.
Yes.
And Lottie Kopecky, also from SD Works, is #1 in individual women's World Tour points. Statistically, shouldn't SD Works be the dominant force?
See, this is the fascinating tactical shift in modern cycling. SD Works has the absolute best individual point scorer in Kopecky and the most prolific volume sprinter in Wiebes. But FDJ United Suez has built the strongest overall spread of victories across vastly different terrains. You have Vollering dominating the sustained climbs of Flanders. You have Ali Wollaston winning flat, fast stages at the Tour Down Under.
Oh, I see.
You have Elise Chabbey taking the gravel at Strade Bianchon. And now Koch winning the flat, brutal cobblestones of Paris-Roubaix.
So FDJ is essentially running a decentralized model. They don't have one superstar they protect at all costs. They have a multi-tool roster.
Exactly. To understand this, we need who stepped into the leadership vacuum when the race dynamics shifted on the cobbles. That kind of tactical flexibility is how you build a truly resilient dynasty.
So Koch and FDJ United Suez just proved that tactical grit, combined with an adaptable infrastructure, can topple absolute legends. Week 16 definitely survives the one-star rule so far.
Definitely.
But I want to take that concept of tactical resilience and apply it to a completely different geometry.
Let's do it.
We are transitioning from the chaotic, narrow, cobbled roads of France to the massive, sprawling grass pitches of the European qualifiers for the 2027 Women's World Cup. Can a young team pull off a tactical miracle against a giant when the giant has all the resources?
That is the ultimate question of the Netherlands versus France match in Group A2. And this match perfectly illustrates a concept in soccer known as empty possession.
Okay.
The Netherlands defeated France 2-1, handing the French team a shocking qualifying defeat.
The statistics from this match literally broke my brain. Let's look at the reality of the pitch. France completely controlled the ball. They held 70% possession.
Yeah.
They dictated the tempo. They physically camped out in the Dutch half of the field for the vast majority of the 90 minutes. And they still walked away with a loss.
To understand how a team survives with only 30% of the ball, we have to examine the geometry of a low block defense.
A low block.
Yes. The Dutch, managed by Arjan Verink, fielded a heavily rotated, very young squad. When you know you cannot outpass a technically superior team like France, you concede the midfield. You pull all 10 of your outfield players back toward your own penalty box, completely compressing the space.
But defending like that for 90 minutes, I would imagine the psychological fatigue is worse than the physical fatigue. You are just chasing shadows. You're constantly reacting.
It is agonizing. It requires immense cognitive discipline. When France passes the ball side to side, trying to find a gap, the entire Dutch defensive unit has to shift in unison, like a pendulum. If one defender loses focus for 2 seconds and steps out of line, a French midfielder slips a pass through that tiny gap, and the whole structure collapses. France's coach, Laurent Bonadie, was visibly frustrated after the match.
I bet.
He explicitly stated that despite having over 70% possession, his team lacked clinical finishing. They accumulated passes, but they didn't penetrate the compressed space.
He said, quote, "We had over 70% possession. We have to be more efficient." That is a haunting quote for any coach. And the Dutch proved exactly what efficiency looks like. René van Asten scores a brilliant surgical strike in the 11th minute. They get one chance, they take it.
And the real test of their psychological resilience came in the second half. In the 54th minute, France finally breaks through, but it's an incredibly unfortunate own goal.
Oh, right.
Sandy Baltimore whips a powerful cross into the box. It takes a wild deflection, and Dutch goalkeeper Daphne van Domselaar accidentally parries it into her own net.
When you are playing a low block and you've spent an hour absorbing relentless pressure, and your own goalkeeper accidentally scores for the other team, that is the exact moment an underdog team is supposed to emotionally collapse. The floodgates should have opened.
That is the turning point in the psychology of the match. But the Netherlands maintained their shape. They didn't panic and suddenly abandon their tactical identity to try and press high.
They just held the line.
They absorbed the gut punch, reset their defensive pendulum, and waited for France to overcommit. Because France, having equalized, felt the momentum shift and pushed even higher up the pitch, leaving massive empty spaces behind their defenders.
Which leads to the 67th minute, the counterattack. Esme Burks finds that empty space, receives the ball, and unleashes a low-angled strike to win the game 2-1.
Listen to the captain, Lynette Bierenstein. She said many had written us off, but not us. Arjan Verink rated his young team's performance a perfect 10 out of 10.
It's so impressive.
This match is a masterclass in psychological resilience. When you are starved of resources, whether that is 30% possession on a soccer pitch, or blowout over Serbia.
6-0.
Yeah. Italy utilized a relentless high press. Instead of letting Serbia hold the ball, Italy's forwards sprinted at the Serbian defenders the second they received a pass. This forces panicked, rushed decisions.
So Serbia couldn't mathematically cope with the numerical overloads Italy created in the attacking third.
Exactly, leading to goals from Girelli, Oliviero, Lenzini, Caruso, Cantor, and Gregi.
Or look at Norway thrashing Slovenia 5-0. Ada Hegerberg, one of the most lethal strikers in the world, scored twice, with Blackstad, Graham Hansen, and Sevic dismantling the defense.
It was a bloodbath.
Germany dismantled Austria 5-1, with Eniomi, Endemann, Brand, and Schuller all finding the net. The geometry of the pitch just opens up when these elite teams find their rhythm.
And then you have matches that sit right on the nice edge, like England edging Spain 1-0 in front of over 60,000 fans at Wembley Stadium.
60,000 fans. The atmosphere must have been absolutely deafening, and that match was decided in the very first moments. A third-minute volley from Lauren Hemp. For the next 87 minutes, it was two incredible goalkeepers and two elite defensive units refusing to give an inch.
That England-Spain match proves that even at the absolute pinnacle of the sport, against top-tier opposition, a single clinical moment, a perfectly timed volley in the third minute, can dictate the entire trajectory of a qualifying campaign.
But I want to pull back from the 60,000 screaming fans at Wembley and the elite international chess matches for a second.
Good.
Because buried in our sources is a micro story that really captures the pure emotion of what sports are fundamentally about. In the lower leagues, a high school team, Reed City, defeated Kent City 3-2 to secure their very first win of the season after a brutal string of early struggles.
I am so glad you highlighted that. It provides essential perspective. We can analyze the tactical nuances of a 70% possession disadvantage all day, but the emotional core of a local team fighting through early season failure to finally secure a 3-2 victory utilizes the exact same psychological resilience as the Dutch national team.
Right, it's the exact same human element.
The scale is different, but the refusal to yield when the odds are against you is identical.
The refusal to yield. That is the perfect transition for where we are heading next. We are moving from the expansive, open grass pitches of European soccer to the enclosed, zero-margin, hyper-fast environments of elite college athletics.
Yes.
We are stepping onto the icy rinks and padded mats where the physical margins for error literally drop to zero.
The NCAA collegiate ecosystem is currently in its absolute peak phase. It is crucial to understand that the NCAA is not just a standalone entity. It is the primary developmental pipeline for professional leagues like the WNBA, the PWHL, and the International Olympic Squads.
The pipeline.
Exactly. And the climax of the collegiate ice hockey season, the Frozen Four, delivered an absolute defining classic.
The Wisconsin Badgers defeating the Ohio State Buckeyes 4-3 in sudden death overtime to secure the national title.
Is the ultimate pressure cooker. And it feeds directly into the dynasty versus contender narrative that defines so many elite sports. Wisconsin has maintained an iron grip on the landscape of collegiate hockey.
Yeah, they have.
Ohio State has built an incredible program, desperately trying to break that grip. But Wisconsin possesses an institutional memory of how to win. When the game is tied and the clock resets for sudden death, Wisconsin refuses to blink.
I want to talk about the biomechanics of that overtime period, because ice hockey is already the fastest team sport on Earth. You have athletes moving at 20 to 25 miles per hour on steel blades, carrying carbon fiber sticks.
Yeah, so fast.
And in overtime, the game-winning goal was scored by Kirsten Sims, backed by the unbelievable goaltending of Ava McNaughton. How does a goalie process information when the game is on the line and a puck is traveling at 80 miles an hour?
The biomechanics of an elite goaltender like Ava McNaughton are staggering. It is not about reaction time. Human beings physically cannot react fast enough to a slap shot from the face-off circle.
Really? So what are they doing?
It's about predictive geometry. McNaughton is reading the angle of the shooter's stick blade, the rotation of their shoulders, and the position of the defenseman obscuring her vision, all in fractions of a second.
Oh, wow.
She is positioning her body so that the puck mathematically has a higher probability of hitting her chest protector before it even leaves the stick. And when she makes that save, it allows a player like Kirsten Sims to transition the puck up the ice with blistering speed to score the winner.
And the fallout of this championship is immediate. The sources note that following the climax of the college season, both the USA and Canada national teams immediately launched into their international training camps.
They don't get a break.
No break. They are taking these young, explosive college players like Sims and McNaughton and actively integrating them into the senior squads.
This is where we see a generational transition occurring in real time. The tactical focus at the international level is being forced to shift. When you inject 20-year-old athletes who've been playing hyper-aggressive transition-based collegiate hockey into a senior national team, the entire...
But if we look over at NCAA gymnastics, which is also airing its global semifinals right now, it feels like the sport is undergoing a completely different kind of technical evolution.
Yes, very different.
Programs like LSU, Oklahoma, and Florida are dominating, but they aren't doing it just by going faster or higher.
LSU in particular is fascinating right now. Led by the all-around excellence of Haley Bryant, They're consistently pushing their team scores into the staggering 197 to 198 plus range. To understand how difficult that is, we have to look at the gymnastics code of points.
Right, because gymnastics right now feels less like a daredevil stunt show, which is how it used to be marketed, and more like a high-stakes bomb defusal. Every tiny movement has a mathematical consequence.
Exactly. In the past, the sport often heavily rewarded athletes for attempting the absolute flashiest, most dangerous, gravity-defying risks. If you threw a mathematically difficult tumbling pass, you could afford a slight stumble on the landing because the base value of the skill was so high.
The points were baked in.
Right. But the current paradigm in NCAA gymnastics heavily prioritizes extreme technical precision and clean execution over reckless difficulty.
So when teams are scoring in the high 197s, what does the math actually look like on the mat?
It means they're operating in a state of near mathematical perfection. Judges are looking for the slightest deviations, a flexed foot instead of a pointed toe in the middle of a back handspring, a knee that is bent 2 degrees off straight,
2 degrees, that's microscopic.
a landing where the athlete takes a microscopic hop to absorb the kinetic energy instead of freezing their feet to the mat. Every single one of these deviations incurs a mandatory fractional deduction. When Haley Bryant competes, she isn't just jumping high, she is eliminating the mathematical possibility of a deduction.
But hold on, I have to push back on this evolution.
Sure.
If the sport is actively prioritizing technical precision and clean mathematical execution over the risky, flashy, jaw-dropping routines, do we lose the wow factor? Does gymnastics sacrifice its core entertainment value for the sake of an algorithm? If I'm a casual viewer, I want to see someone fly, not someone point their toes perfectly.
That is the exact tension tearing through the gymnastics community right now. The purists absolutely love this technical evolution.
Let's look at the broader trends happening in week 16, starting with a sport that is entirely rewriting its mathematical algorithms. Cricket.
If you look at the global T20 cricket matches happening right now, specifically matchups like the Mumbai Indians versus the Punjab Kings, you are witnessing a radical shift in batting philosophy.
For our listeners who might not be deep into cricket strategy, T20 is the shortest, fastest format of the game. Each team only gets 20 overs, which is 120 legal deliveries to score as many runs as possible.
Yeah.
But the sources note that the strike rates, the speed at which batters are scoring, and the power play strategies are becoming highly aggressive. Why the sudden shift?
It comes down to calculated risk algorithms. The power play in T20 cricket refers to the first 6 overs of the innings, where strict fielding restrictions are in place. Only 2 fielders are allowed outside the 30-yard inner circle.
So the outfield is basically empty.
Empty. Historically, batters use these first few overs to get their eye in, carefully assessing the pitch and the bowlers. But the modern analytics have completely flipped that script.
They realize the math favors absolute aggression.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Batters now understand that those first 6 overs, with the fielders pulled in close, represent the highest statistical probability of hitting the ball to the boundary for 4 or 6 runs. So instead of preserving their wicket, they are stepping up and swinging with maximum biomechanical torque from the very first ball.
So the game is getting faster, it is becoming physically more punishing for the bowlers, and the total scores are skyrocketing because the fear of getting out has been replaced by the mathematical necessity of scoring fast.
Exactly.
So cricket is speeding up, just like hockey. But then I look at our sources for mixed martial arts, specifically the UFC, and it feels like the complete opposite is happening. The sport is in a holding pattern.
It does feel like a holding pattern, but in combat sports, a lack of massive, chaotic upsets is actually the most tense, fascinating part of the story.
Why is that?
Right now, the champions are maintaining their dominance. You have Zhang Weili holding the strawweight belt. She has evolved from a pure, explosive striker into an elite grappler, effectively neutralizing her challengers.
Yeah.
And Valentina Shevchenko remains a dominant force in the flyweight division with her clinical, counter-striking distance management.
So if the champions are just holding steady, why does that matter for our Week 16 verdict? Where is the tension?
The tension lies in the shadows of the rankings. Because there are no immediate, chaotic upsets, it means the next generation of fighters is quietly, methodically sharpening their tools.
Oh, I see.
Highly technical contenders are positioning themselves for the inevitable clash. You have fighters like Erin Blanchfield, who possesses an incredibly heavy, suffocating grappling game that neutralizes strikers. And on the other side, you have Manon Fiorot, a precise, distance-managing striker who picks grapplers apart before they can ever grab her.
So the champions are holding steady, but the entire ecosystem underneath them is evolving specifically to exploit their blueprints.
Exactly. The fact that Zhang Weili and Valentina Shevchenko are holding the line just means that when the clash finally happens, when Blanchfield or Furot step into the octagon against them, it will be a spectacular collision of highly evolved, perfectly calculated styles. It is the calm before the storm.
I love that. The absence of an upset is just the tension building for a bigger explosion. But if MMA is the calm before the storm, the world of tennis right now is a guaranteed thunderstorm of upsets. The literal ground beneath the athlete's feet is changing.
The tennis circuit is currently in its massive transition phase to clay courts, with major tournaments happening at the Stuttgart Open and the Rouen Open. And shifting from hard courts to clay completely rewrites the physics of the sport.
It is known as the Great Equalizer.
Offensive attacking mindset to a defensive problem-solving mindset.
Wow.
The athletes who succeed during this transition phase aren't necessarily the ones with the best forehands. They are the ones who can mentally adapt to the environment rather than stubbornly trying to force the environment to adapt to them.
Cognitive flexibility. That is the exact same trait the Dutch soccer team utilized to survive 70% possession against France, and the exact same trait Franziska Koch used to win on the cobblestones. Adapt to the environment, solve the problem in front of you.
And we are seeing this growth, adaptation, and expansion happening across women's sports globally. Look at the Pacific Four Series in women's rugby. We have elite international matchups taking place. The USA Eagles colliding with the Australia Wallaroos, and New Zealand facing off against Canada.
And the sources highlight that these specific matches are driving unprecedented visibility for the sport, particularly in the United States. Rugby is a sport of pure physical collision, but to win at that elite level, it requires the same spatial geometry and tactical discipline as a soccer match. The scrums, the lineouts, the creation of space on the wings, it's brutal, but it's calculated.
It is highly calculated. And finally, if we look at the world of athletics, the track and field athletes are currently building their early outdoor season form. The benchmarks were set at the recent World Athletics Indoor Championships. Georgia Bell running a staggering 3 minutes, 58.53 seconds in the 1,500 meters. Yaroslava Mahuchik clearing 2.01 meters in the high jump.
But the sources also point to smaller regional week 16 meets where athletes are putting up times like 13.2 seconds in the 100-meter hurdles or running a 6-minute 1-second mile in the 1,600 meters. Those aren't world record times, so why are they significant to the narrative?
Because April is the phase where form is built, not revealed. Track and field is an exercise in physiological peaking. You cannot hold your absolute maximum speed for 12 months a year. Your central nervous system would collapse.
Oh, that makes sense.
A 13.2-second hurdle.
Those aren't world record times, so why are they significant to the narrative?
Because April is the phase where form is built, not revealed. Track and field is an exercise in physiological peaking. You cannot hold your absolute maximum speed for 12 months a year. Your central nervous...
Did week 16 survive the brutal one-star rule?
I think it did.
I think the answer is absolutely undeniable. From Franziska Koch shocking the cycling world by navigating the brutal physics of the cobblestones to edge out the greatest of all time in a velodrome sprint, to a young Dutch soccer team utilizing extreme cognitive discipline to defy a 70% possession deficit and take down France, to a lower league high school team finding emotional redemption on a muddy pitch. The odds were spectacularly defied this week. We found our murky, unpredictable, brilliant moments.
We spend so much of our time as fans rooting for the underdog, don't we? We crave the tension. We crave the exact moment empire falls. But if we pull back, consider the psychological toll on the dynasties.
Right.
The Wisconsin Badgers in hockey, Zhang Weili in the octagon, Demi Vollering on a mountain climb. They exist at the absolute pinnacle, but they know that the entire world, every young team, every up-and-coming fighter, every coach is obsessively studying their blueprints, waiting for them to slip.
The burden of the crown.
Exactly. The real question isn't how the underdog manages to win. It's how the champions manage to sleep at night, knowing that the entire ecosystem of their sport is being actively rebuilt